Oh boy, John, here we go again. Are the rules sound? I would say yes. The LPGA is a different sport. I've been very consistent with how I've tried to approach this transgender athletes. It really depends on the sport.
Caitlyn Jenner on Fox News, she's been a contributor there, of course, to talk about many times athletics, transgender folks in athletics. In this particular case, though, she appears to be more approving about when it comes to this particular golfer on the LPGA, or at least trying to get on the LPGA Tour. So John Roberts, that anchor there, was then asking her those questions. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there was some serious discomfort. He's like, oh no, that's the wrong answer, Caitlyn. Let's look at that again, watch his face.
Are the rules sound? I would say yes. The LPGA is a different sport. I've been very consistent with how I've tried to approach this transgender athletes.
Someone was off camera going, no, because he's like, oh no, oh no, oh no, am I gonna get fired because I'm letting her talk? Anyways. Let's let Caitlyn finish her explanation about why golf is different, because that's actually the point of this. Why golf is different than other sports as far as transgender women actually competing. Let's let her go.
It really depends on the sport. Every sport is different. Obviously, we saw with Lia Thomas, she had gone through male puberty. Bigger cardiovascular system. It just wasn't fair. Now we come to golf. Golf is a totally different game. It is a game of touch and feel. It is about your ability around the green to get the ball close, out of the bunker, your ability to putt. She's playing within the rules. Let's see how this thing works out. It'll be interesting. But I don't think she's in a position where she's going to be dominating on the LPGA Tour. Yeah. To be honest with you, those girls on tour are so good.
There's no question about that.
I guarantee you, the girls on tour, the top girls on tour can beat probably 99.9% of the men out there.
Yeah, and I know
they're that good.
So because 99.9% of this court to Caitlyn Jenner, 99.9% of the girls, not women, on the LPGA Tour can beat random schleps on the street. Of course they can, they're professionals. Anyways, it's a game of touch and feel and putt. So maybe the strength isn't involved, at least the folks that say all this stuff, which made me ask the question, which I've been asking to myself. And I was like, I'm gonna do this deep research. So you guys have to come for this ride with me. So bear with me. Because I asked the question, I said, where is the disadvantage when it comes to cis women, when it comes to athletics? Or is this just another one of those things where Republicans are pushing Mr. Potato Head, the caravan of migrants coming up, the next fear tactic that if they can win an election, then they'll stop talking about, because they've been going crazy over Lia Thomas, the swimmer. So I went to this WebMD article and they actually asked someone scientifically, so there's gonna be some details here that you guys are going to follow with me on, about whether this disadvantage really exists. So let's jump into these answers that I found. So WebMD Medscape interviewed sports physicist Joanna Harper, who's advised the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, and other sporting bodies on gender and sports. She pivoted from working in cancer research to becoming a PhD student in Loughborough University in London, one of the world's top institutes for sports research, after publishing on race times of non-elite athletes, including herself before and after transition. So I just want to give you guys her credentials a little bit to see if the point of believing in what she's saying here. So here's more, because the testosterone levels being measured by these athletic regulators is the first part. So WebMD asked her, most guidelines in the participation of transgender women in sports use testosterone levels in the prior 12 months with cutoffs of 5 nanomoles per liter or 10 nanomoles per liter. Is that correct? Because there's a certain level you have to have. She says in 2016, the IOC adopted a guideline where trans women could compete after 1 year of having testosterone levels below 10 nanomoles per liter. World Athletics subsequently put in a rule that required 5 per liter. But it's important to note that there are different tests used for those two rules. In other words, one has 10, other has 5. But when you compare the types of tests, it actually is 10 to 7.5. So it's not exactly half. So the levels could be different. That's just the one point as far as nanomoles. Now, WebMD then asked her about testosterone levels, because that's where people are talking about the differences as far as the natural makeup of a male body versus a female body. So from that, testosterone levels drop quickly after hormone treatment. Is it true that the testosterone levels of trans women are similar to cis female levels? Harper says, absolutely. 95% of cisgender women have testosterone below 2 nanomoles per liter, 2. And in a recent study of nearly 250 trans women, 94% of them had testosterone below 2 nanomoles per liter. It doesn't really matter whether the limit is 5 or 10 nanomoles per liter because most trans women are going to be under 2 anyway because of the types of treatments and the testosterone levels being changed here. So again, the single most important physiological factor for endurance of athletes is the hemoglobin. We're getting deep, you guys. So we're going from testosterone to now hemoglobin because she's explaining this whole thing. WebMD asks her, hemoglobin levels also drop as testosterone levels decline, right? Harper says hemoglobin levels follow the testosterone. Within weeks of starting testosterone suppression, testosterone levels will be within the female norms, but it takes a little longer for hemoglobin to get to the female norms, probably in the 3 to 4 month range. That's roughly the life cycle of red blood cells. As trans women replace their red blood cells with their new lower testosterone levels, they will have fewer red blood cells and lower hemoglobin, but it does take 3 to 4 months, so it's a little bit longer. So here's, okay, so everyone that's seeing this and going, see, I told you, trans women can actually compete and it's not a big deal. Maybe in some levels you have to wait 3 to 4 months, things like that. Here's a bit of the argument when it comes to the folks who hate trans women. Let's keep it real. WebMD asks her, how are other potential advantages such as lean body mass and strength affected by medical transition? Harper says lean body mass and strength are less affected than hemoglobin, but don't really have studies on trans athletes. Our review and another one looked at studies on non-athletes. But it's the population these studies looked at, she continued on. They weren't looking at trans women who are active in sports. We found that trans women didn't lose very much strength or lean body mass, but they probably didn't build up very much before they started hormone therapy. How applicable that finding is to trans athletes is somewhat debatable. Lastly, there's absolutely no question in my mind that trans women will maintain strength advantages over cis women even after hormone therapy. That's based on her particular clinical experience rather than published data. But I would say there's zero doubt in my mind, she said. So that being the size, the strength advantages that she said would hang around to a certain degree as far as because of what's already been established beforehand. So there's so much more to this though, but really, yes, the bottom line that I've discovered through all this back and forth, which talks about when it comes to hormone treatments and all that, and the trans woman actually competing, it's pretty much the same. And there's some factors like if a woman happens to be taller or longer limbs, in certain sports, it does make a difference. If you're playing basketball, volleyball, things like that, the advantage of a longer arm helps, but it doesn't mean that you necessarily have more endurance or more strength or any of that type of stuff because you have been changing your body makeup. So, but they don't fully know because there's like 2 professional trans athletes and we're complaining and going crazy over it. That's really what the back end of this is for me.
Right. That was very impressive, that whole rundown that you just gave us. That was really good. It was a lot of hemoglobin and testosterone and things that, typically go way over my head because my brain doesn't work that way. So I'm glad that you did all that work. But it's true. I think whenever we have issues like this, and this is really a new issue that we haven't really had to deal with, at least in my lifetime, I'm assuming not in your lifetime. So this is a brand new area that we can all be studying and learning more about. But instead, we've chosen to kind of politicize it first. And whenever you politicize something before you attempt to even understand what it is that we're dealing with, then you have really, bad faith actors who are going to shift the narrative in a way that suits their political agendas better. And it's interesting that Caitlyn Jenner is the spokesperson, or I guess she kind of took it upon herself to be the spokesperson for the trans community, but she chose to do it on Fox News, which is also interesting. I don't know who made her the arbiter of what is okay and what isn't in which sports and which other sports. I guess that she kind of has some experience in that realm as an athlete, as an Olympic athlete, right. But it's good that people are actually doing that research and speaking about it in a way that is intelligent, that is based in science, that is based on clinical research and observation. That's what we need more of so that more people can begin to understand this issue that we're dealing with. You
mean instead of making brash, over the top declarations about what you don't know about, ask someone who maybe will study. And if you haven't studied yet, wait for the studies. But it's become a political issue. And honestly, folks who are in support of trans women being able to live and do what they want with their lives, don't want to give any kind of credence to folks who do all this barking, even if they have a half of a point when it comes to sometimes what this particular expert said, because then it turns political. It's not even like a discussion. It's not even like, how do we actually allow lives to happen? We don't care because it's become a political debate and how you're gonna get in office and get elected again. It's frustrating. So it lands somewhere in the middle, but I'd say mostly towards it's not that big of a deal. Let's keep it real.